my kind of approach isn't, okay, I want to find the highest odds risk level where I won't get stopped out. That's not my kind of approach. I don't like fighting names. I like when names are working, and I like paying myself along the way. I don't need to, take a position at 30 and be like, there's no way it's getting over 35. I'm risking $5 a share. That's not my style of trading.
All right, everybody. We are back again for another episode of This Week in Steady Trade. I got Jack and Kyle, who are now official hosts, so quick round of applause to them. Super awesome. Glad to have you boys here. But yeah, we've been saying it for weeks. Like, the market should be slowing down. It should be kind of just easing off less plays, and it just continues. It's absolute madness. There's always plays. There's always shit running. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think what we said, last episode, like, there's no plays, ahead, but it can change in a minute. Like, one day it can change everything. And literally today, like, everything's just popping. Like, everything's going. Yesterday, everything was popping. So we're back. There's a whole other wave of shit going on. So yeah, it's nuts.
You get like a day or two every week that are kind of slow, and then there's like 2 or 3 days there's just madness, and it's kind of a question. If you are a profitable trader, it's okay, how much can I capitalize on this? How much can I make? You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas the other days, you need to recognize that it's slower, size down, try to hit signals. But when you recognize your A+ setups, you can't be afraid to scale those into those.
Yeah.
So. True. Awesome. So I'm going to pull up StocksToTrade, go over these charts really quickly that we're talking about, and then I'll pass it over to Kyle. So this week we're going to talk about Mark, which has been an awesome runner / Twitter pump, NMHLY, which is a former OTC runner, and these guys capitalized on the backside here. WTRH, also a former runner, and that had a sweet run in the double top up here in the 4s. I'm going to take on SPOM, SPOM today, which is an OTC breakout, and then we'll end on VTIQ, which these guys are looking to trade later this week and perhaps into next week, depending on the price action. So, Kyle, want to share your screen and take it away?
Whenever you're ready, Jack.
So Mark was one that me and Kyle were watching coming into this week because it extended itself from probably like 40 cents up to near $1, and then kind of went sideways, had the nice multi-day breakout there, and then extended itself all the way up to $1.95 that day that Kyle's looking at. And then the next day it gapped up, and that's when I was interested in potentially short selling the stock if it showed the signs that I was looking for. And we actually took into account that it was the first day that Mark had actually had a significant gap up, whereas most days it kind of just would gap up 10, 20 cents. So when it gaps up like as big as it did, that's potential for backside, in my opinion, because everybody who's now long, they can sell at market open and they're locking in very big profits, and they're usually happy with those profits that they get to lock in on the gap up. So after it had its failed morning spike, me and Kyle started building into a short position, and I was actually shorting like the 230 area. And then when it had that hard snap there, that big volume candle and that big wick there, that's when I went ahead and added on that bounce. But unfortunately, I kind of could see in the tape that this thing was just supporting way too well when it snapped back that quick. And that's why, like, a lot of times I just kind of like taking off some pieces just in the weakness, just in case it does snap back like that, because then you can just put right back on and you can make, net 15 cents. And unfortunately, I missed my covers because it was a little too quick. But then I added, and kind of as it started changing trend and going back up, I was slowly sizing out of it, and I got out of it for a small loss. And then unfortunately, me and Kyle just aren't very good short sellers into the afternoon. We really strive when it's the most volatility in the morning, because the action is more predictable to me, because the action in the morning is a lot more volatile, and it seems like you can take advantage of bigger moves more quickly. Whereas you see in the afternoon, that thing just completely unwinded, and that's not the kind of thing that I'm very good at staying patient on. Maybe it's something I can work on in the future, but then on that action there, I joined in on some of the weakness there and covered some of the dips there, but I really just made my money back, and I was flat on it that day, which was a little bit unfortunate. But coming into today, now I know that there's a massive wall of resistance, because if you see, there is a massive amount of volume there, and super, super high odds, even more high odds than the gap up. I think that today would have been the first red day. So today I started shorting up in the pre-market area there. I think actually my best fill was at the top, I think like 212. And I just started scaling into those levels in the twos based on the resistance. And I started in small. And then once it starts failing, then that's when I started adding. And I added into that. And I took my last ad probably at market open near that VWAP area after it went red. And then from there, just covered down on the dips. And I built into a big position there, 8,500 shares. And I had a break-even stop loss or even small profit because I changed my risk to $2, which was high a day. And these are the charts really that I like, where there's no signs of life. Like the bag holders are in. We're going to short this and fade it down. And I don't expect it to be strong over VWAP, whereas the previous day, it still can get over VWAP. Today it's just completely weak. And those are the days that I really like to strive in. And I really just like to take bigger size with a tighter stop and cover and take my predictable 10, 15%. And that's exactly what I did. Locked in about $3,000 on that today. And I was very happy with it.
Awesome. All right, Kyle.
So with NMHLY, I believe we talked about this one maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe last week. One of the weeks we talked about it, but essentially this thing was having around 3 after, it's not in the chart here, but it ran from, 30 cents to $1, back down to 30 cents. And now we are again for a third time going from 30 cents and approaching 80 cents. And so, we were looking for a backside again. If you go back to the chart, if you have your software up, every first red day that this stock has had has been just massive, right? This thing drops 30, 40, 50% in a matter of minutes. And so me and Jack knew that going into this. So we wanted to be aggressive. And so we actually missed longing it here. We didn't want to, I didn't lock it at all. I think Jack may have longed it overnight on, I believe, the 8th into the 11th. But into the 11th, we didn't take this long in this huge run up. We wanted to wait the long is over. We want to wait for the first red day. So coming into today, or yesterday, I should say, it closed at like 75 cents and it was gapping down to 70 cents. And so immediately it's kind of a unique scenario for OTCs where when it's gapping out and down like this, the red green move where we like to short is not there anymore. Right now it is gapping down. So we have to decide, okay, is this thing going to spike to the red green, or do we have to just slam in right out the open and catch this panic? And so if you look really close here, it had one green candle. So the first minute was green. And once we saw that it was topping out at 70, there was like massive sellers. Me and Jack said, yeah, this thing's done. This thing's going to panic, 30, 40, 50% like we've seen in the past. And so we got short and immediately, you know what happens next. Just absolutely died and fall apart. I ended up covering, I believe, almost all of it into this dip here. I missed this new low day because I was pretty much done with it. I was actually looking for a higher bounce. I was looking for it to be more of a rounded bounce and reshort at like 60. This bounce quickly failed. It kept going lower. So I missed this move. But then we got a gift, right? Midday, this bounce comes back. And so, normally this bounce can be very scary. But like me and Jack have said before, and how many times we've seen this stock play out, like we just know this stock has so many shareholders to sell. So many people want to get out of this thing. So when this thing started spiking, we were risking 70, which is the opening price where we saw all those big sellers. We got short into this bounce, it immediately pulled. We then held overnight because it closed so well. And then into the open today, it panicked and I covered most into this bounce. I believe Jack held a little bit left for this new low day. And then that was that. So very, very sweet move. Ultimately, this OTC is just, I wish all OTCs were like this because this one was so easy, fluid moving. The percentage gains were massive on this thing, giving us, nearly a 40 to 50% move, twice in a day and a half. So super, super cool runner. And hopefully we get more like these in the future. So.
Absolutely. And you short bias traders missed the awesome dip buy opportunity that first day. That was like a 30, 40% bounce. I think right there.
It's good that you mentioned that. I totally forgot. I made like a very small amount. I made like 300. I took very small size. I was so focused on my short that I really didn't. Unfortunately, this is like the theme for me lately. I've been missing a lot of dip buys because I'm just so focused on the short that I missed on the dip buy. But I did actually make $300 on this one. And I think, Jack, did you long it, correct?
Yeah, I think I got 15,000 shares from the bottom, and then I scaled out at 52, 53, and then I saved 5K because every single time I always sell my long before I get short. So I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna wait this time and I'm gonna sell my long when I get short. And unfortunately, it just kind of came down, and then I sold for a small profit once I knew that low day was coming. So I locked in about like 700 there or something on the dip buy, but that's just a nice wallet pad to the short. You know what I mean? Just over covering some of your shares and flipping on the dip because you know a bounce is coming. You know, Sykes teaches that pattern when stock falls from 70 to 45 in 5 minutes. You're going to get that dip buy there.
Yeah. Great stock. I think WTRH is the next one.
Okay, so VTRH was a very similar runner to Mark in that we were just looking for the first red day, and it actually was also very similar in that it had a very similar move where Mark, you know, if I go back here, you know, it had morning strength, failed, and then all day fade. Similar with WTRH, I ended up actually taking a loss in the morning on the top day because it just squeezed, right? So, you know, in the morning, let's swim out here. You know, the red move, I believe, was like the low threes, and then we morning spiked, failed, and we're pulling. And so I actually start getting short in this little bounce here, thinking, you know, we're going to keep fading, we're going to lower, and we're going to have our first red day. And we squeeze, right? So I end up losing about $400. I keep letting it squeeze. I think it's going to go higher. I'm waiting for, you know, the next day to short it. And then like Mark, but in a different manner, we just completely fall apart, right? And we fall right into the close to new lows. And so unfortunately, like Jack was saying, I think what something me and him have learned recently is that how effective we are around the open price, or not the opening price, around the open. Like the first hour or two is really our best time to shine and find out what stock is going to fall apart. So when something like WTRH or like Mark, they fall apart midday or late day, you know, I wasn't there for this, and I don't think Jack was either. We completely missed this death on WTRH. But like again, similar with Mark, we knew going to the next day was very likely of more downside, and so that's exactly what happened. We come in today, we know again, just like Mark, all these bag holders are underwater. You know, there's people long from 340, 360, 380 at the top there, and so there's still people want to sell. Coming to the market open, it did have a little bit of morning spike, but again, you know, there's all this resistance here in the 320s, even in the 340s. We let the strength top out. Finally, it does break down below support here that formed in the morning, and then breaks three. We're staying patient. We're still short. We wait for it to go red, and then actually test red right here, which is a huge sign. I could have added here, but I didn't. And then ultimately, when it got down to the low, you know, the mid twos of 260, 270, we both covered out for another solid. I think Jack made, how much you make, Jack? 1,000 or so?
Yeah, I think I made 1,200 on that.
1,200. Yeah, I locked in 600. So just a small, you know, ideally I would have loved for this stock to, you know, close near like 380 or 4. And then the first red day would have been much, much bigger than it was today. But, you know, when you miss this downside move and you still get some more downside the next day, you just take it. You know, you don't complain about it. So that was that.
Awesome. I love how it's the same pattern, just like over and over again. We've done this, 4 or 5 weeks now? And like you guys just rinse, repeat, do the same thing over again. And I mean, that's what trading's all about there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So I'm going to pull up SPOM. All right. So SPOM, this is an OTC, and I kind of got started trading in OTCs like a year ago when I met Jack, Kyle, and Dom, but they've kind of been hit or miss. But usually once a month, you get at least one good runner. And SPOM was a former runner, and I was watching it after last week. It ran a couple days and then started holding sideways. So that got me interested in it. And if we pull up a 10-day here, you can see this morning, it morning spiked and held sideways. And so I thought the OTC, like an OTC breakout was going to come, because OTC breakouts are super great runners, usually run for multiple days. So I started sizing in. I can pull up my executions here. I took a small starter here just to get a feel. And then once it was holding up throughout the day, I added into strength. I think by the end, my average was a little over 26. And then we just got this awesome end of day move here where a ton of volume poured in. And I mean, I just sold out into 36 area. But if we look at a daily, like, I mean, there's resistance up here at 40, 44, 45. Like, it definitely could keep running. But for me, it just wasn't worth the risk because I was playing with some decent size just because I was sizing it throughout the day. And when you get a huge spike here, I mean, in 2 minute, or was it 10 minutes, you get a 20% spike. Like, you just got to lock that in. So I just locked it in, and yeah, I mean, this was an awesome trade for me. This was actually my biggest trade ever. I locked in a little over 4,500 on it. Awesome trade. So
that was sweet.
yeah. So I mean, I expect it to keep running, but I don't know if I'll play it again. The easy move was over for me.
Right, and that's something I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I'll probably be watching for tomorrow too. I used to do this all the time back when some of the weed runners were hot, like CAN and BUDZ, but similar to SPOM now here, where it's closing near its highs and it has a breakout level. So if tomorrow morning, you know, it has a small gap up, or maybe it gaps even, but the green to red level is like as full of bidders. Almost the opposite of what I talked about with NMHLY, where we saw so many sellers at 70, right? If you see so many buyers say at what was the close? It closed at 34, you know, and it's clearly supporting green. I might consider a long, just because the continuation of the breakout is like going for a second day, right? So if it holds green, I might consider taking a long, and if it breaks it over 37, then even more confirmation that I'm right, and who knows, maybe it can go to mid 40s or 50s. So we'll have to see how that goes tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point too. All right. So our last stock for this one is just one that should be on your radar, that both Jack and Kyle are looking to play going forward. And this week they chose VTIQ. I'm going to let Jack explain what happened today and what they're looking for tomorrow and the next couple of days.
So VTIQ was a big runner all the way down from about $10 to $15. They came out with some news, and it just started having this really nice multi-day run, and it was holding a perfect daily chart. And what do I mean by a perfect daily chart? I mean that every single day it was having a small gap, it was potentially having a dip, and then it was just having a nice strong green day. Kyle will show you guys what I mean right here. So it's just holding every single day, and as you can see, it's very extended. So going into today, me and Kyle were watching this for potential short play, kind of like Mark, where, you know, it has a gap up, and we're kind of looking for that blow off volume and that fail. So it was kind of choppy in the morning, and we took a little bit short down in the morning there before 10 a.m. and we both recognized that it was holding, and we stopped out for a very small break-even-ish trade, and then we kind of just let it squeeze throughout the day. And then once it kind of had its hard crack there around 11:30, and it started holding below VWAP there, that's when I started reshorting it again. And I got fairly aggressive on this because the stock is extended on its 5th green day, and these are some of my biggest winners when these things go red. It's usually an awesome panic. So I sized in all the way down onto that weakness, and then I ended up with like 1,500 shares from like about a 30-ish average. And then the stock panicked all the way down to 25 very quickly. And unfortunately, me and Kyle we just saw the stock go red. So me and Kyle were taking a little bit too much of a patient approach, where I was only taking off 100 shares, 50 shares into a few of the dips there. And I still had, you know, most of my size on. And the thing just snapped right back, just a straight up V recovery. And unfortunately, you know, I saw my very big unrealized disappear in the matter of, you know, 30 minutes, where I was right back to my average, where I was just up $5 a share. So once it kind of then broke over 30, then I was kind of covering some of those dips where Kyle's mouse is right there. That's where I got out. And then I just put a little bit on near 31 and kind of faded it back down to that range right there. And it is what it is, but it's a little sickening to, you know, take a big unrealized and turn it into, you know, just a few $100 in profits. And I think the key lesson here is you need to be, when these things have these big gap ups and the big volume, you know, I want to be taking off into support. I want to be taking off into, you know, a whole number, something like 25. I need to be covering more into those washes because it just gave up $10 a share, so a bounce is likely coming. And I just didn't expect the bounce to be so strong, so I don't want to just, you know, chase my covers up on a straight up bounce. So unfortunately, I never really got that dip where it was like, okay, this is a lower low, where it was just a straight up V. And that's just a very unfortunate recovery, but it is what it is, and we'll be watching it moving forward. And as you've noticed, we've done really well on Mark and WTRH after they put in this kind of day where they show their weakness, where the big volume is, where the candle kind of closes reddish. So me and Kyle tomorrow will be looking for either a weak gap up and, you know, weakness out of the open to join for that first 1 to 2 hour sell-off. Or if this thing gaps up and starts pressing today's high, I would think that too many short sellers would be underwater for it to have a potential unwind. So I'm really thinking this needs to stay under the low 30s, whether that's going to be 31, 32. But if we start testing like 33, 34, 35, I'm not going to be thinking it's a short play anymore. So I'm going to kind of see what it does, because that was a very big bounce into the close. Right when the shorts think, you know, it's going back red, it's going to close weak, you know, it just snaps right back again. Just the V recovery all the way back up to VWAP. So this stock's really tough for notes going forward. I want to be taking off into, you know, those washes, those dips. And then if it starts to have that V recovery, you know, I need to be covering some again. I can't let a big unrealized, you know, vanish like that again. It's very hard to do mentally, watch your profits disappear that quickly and that much money. So moving forward, you just need to be taking off more. You need to be taking off more into the weakness, paying yourself along the way. My kind of approach isn't, okay, I want to find the highest odds risk level where I won't get stopped out. That's not my kind of approach. I don't like fighting names. I like when names are working, and I like paying myself along the way. I don't need to, you know, take a position at 30 and be like, there's no way it's getting over 35. I'm risking $5 a share. That's not my style of trading. So that's going to be our watch for next week. And that's just a little rant on some trading and just some psychology tips that might help you guys along the way, because just very emotional mess there for me today.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. And I mean, this was a great episode, a ton of great tips, a ton of tickers. And definitely, if you are listening to this on any of the podcast platforms, check out the YouTube version just so you can see all the charts and really see what these guys were talking about, because a lot more value in the video version than the audio alone. All right, boys. That's it. Yeah. So thanks for coming on, and I'm really excited to keep this rolling as always. So keep up the great trading. You guys are having great months, great couple weeks, and we'll see you next time.
With the long. We need another long going on next week. Is what we need.
I'll see, dude. Some of the ABCDs, which is just a pattern I like to play a lot. There's been some really great long ones, so I'll try to mix it up for you, all the listeners out there. But thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.